Professor, thank you very much for joining us here on ENCA. Now, John Steenhuisen has had a chance to show the DA members that he can do it. Has he done a good job, or was he likely just warming up the seat, in your opinion?
Well, I think he was to a large extent the interim leader. At the same time, I think he had a very difficult time because of the pandemic and the fact that the parliament was actually not in operation for quite a substantial period of this, which means that the normal way in which the official opposition can function in parliament, and especially their oversight or checks and balances role, that they couldn't play it really. But that applied to all parties. It applied very much to the EFF also, and we saw the low profile that they maintained during this period. So in a sense, I think why this Federal Congress was now convened for this, because 2 years ago they had a similar Federal Congress. So it is in order to be able to elect this new leadership, at the same time to prepare for the local election next year. So in a sense, it was a waiting situation for them to reach this point, to really have a new leadership or new team of leaders.
Now, Professor, when comparing the two candidates, I don't know if you heard my colleague, but I'm sure you've seen some of the things that they're promising. For instance, John Steenhuisen saying that there's nothing wrong with the DA fixing its problems with the people they already have. Who do you think is coming out stronger between the two?
Well, I think there's two dimensions. The first dimension is the message itself, and that is something I think which is meant for the general public in South Africa, not only for the delegates at this Federal Congress. And then the second component is really trying to convince the delegates who are voting. I think when it comes to this latter point, there's clearly indication that John Steenhuisen has the majority support at the moment within the Congress. But I think the first point is more of a general importance, and will determine what will ultimately be the public perception and the public support in the end for the DA. And this is going to be a watershed event actually for the DA, because since the period of Helen Zille and then of Mmusi Maimane, it reached now a crossroads where they have to decide in which direction they are going. Because I think one of the challenges for the DA, over and above this, what we've talked about, the policy matters, is also how do they define themselves, the type of branding of the DA. Because on the one hand, they are the official opposition at the national level, but at the provincial and local government level in the Western Cape and other parts of the country, they are the party of government. So they have actually two identities that they must be able to do in parallel. And that is an exceptional, difficult challenge for any party to maintain both positions or both identities at the same time and still want to keep the party together. And I think this will, the new leader will have to be able to deal with these cross pressures that will come to them.
Prof, the DA has had its own problems, we all know, with high-profile names leaving the party, particularly when we look at the black leaders. This has been viewed as like a direct indication that the party is only for white people. Would Mbali Ntuli be a better candidate in wiping out that notion, or will it just be perceived as another black person just following the white master?
Well, this is how she presents her candidacy, is that she is seen there as, first of all, a young person. She is the former leader of the youth group within the DA, at the same time as a woman and at the same time as a black person, which are all very different from what John Steenhuisen is. The only common factor between the two of them, and that's a very important one at the same time, is that they both come from KwaZulu-Natal. So whoever is going to win, the next leader is going to be from KwaZulu-Natal and not the Western Cape or Gauteng, which are the two main provinces within the DA. But I think that the personalities and the persons of these two candidates very much sort of present the two main options that exist before the DA Congress at the moment.
The party dwindled in the national government elections last year, which is what many people say was what motivated the return of Helen Zille and these changes in leadership. But could they be slowly losing their position as the official opposition?
I don't think so. The problem for other parties is that there's a fragmentation of parties. The EFF is growing very slowly, around about 2%, 2-3% per election. And they are still halfway behind the DA, 10% versus 20%. So it's a very long way to go for the EFF. And the EFF's main gaining point will be from the ANC and not from the DA. So there's not a zero-sum situation or relationship between the DA and the EFF, that what the DA loses is going to the EFF. It's rather other smaller parties like the Good Party from Patricia de Lille, Freedom Front Plus Party, and so on, who are picking, and maybe now Action SA from Urban Mashaba, who will pick up the votes from the DA. So that I think is at this stage the contestation. What we are seeing in many parts of the country is actually a fragmentation of the political scene, or a diversification, if you want, that more and more parties arise on the scene. Instead of that, the bigger parties are either growing or in decline. So we will have to see. Next year's election is going to be a good indication about that. But because it's a local government election, these smaller parties will be more prominent than when it is at the national or provincial level.
Thank you very much. That is Professor Dirk Coetzee, a political analyst, speaking to us about the DA.